I'd like to call to order the August 29th, 2022 regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. If you could all please rise to join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone who is here with us this evening, as well as those of you who are joining remotely. I'd like to announce the board held an executive session August 8th regarding personnel, legal, and real estate, and prior to this meeting regarding personnel, legal, negotiations, real estate, and safety. Board members with an agenda before you, are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, with that then, Mr. Johnson will now review some housekeeping items related to our hybrid format.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Amber, for your audience, for our audience this evening. 30 minutes will be provided at the beginning of the meeting for public comment for items related to the board business that are not on the action items portion of the agenda. If additional time is necessary, the board may consider reopening public comment after board business is completed or during the next meeting. Each individual will be limited to comments of up to 3 minutes as time permits for the items related to the board business that are not on the action items portion of the agenda. For action items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on that item as required by school code. This approach also allows for comments to be informed by the presentation and board's discussion of the respective item. Since this is a public meeting, we will not permit remarks regarding individual students. If you'd like to share something with our board about individual students, please email them. During the meeting, the IT help desk is available. If those viewing remotely encounter technical difficulties, you may email itsupport@scasd.org or call 814-231-7743.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. At this time, I'll call on our board secretary for a roll call of board members.
Dr. Anderson.
Here.
Dr. Bader.
Here.
Dr. Buck.
Here.
Ms. Concepcion.
Here.
Dr. Crevecoeur.
Here.
Ms. Huff.
Here.
Ms. Zidney.
Okay, and at this time, we'll have our superintendent's update. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Amber. I would like to announce that Park Forest Middle School German teacher David Strock was recognized as 2021-22 Pennsylvania Teacher of the Year semifinalist for his exceptional education of students by the PA Department of Education. Congratulations, David.
That's well earned. He's had 3 of my children, or 2 of them, I think. Yeah, no, 3. So, yeah. Really excellent. Jackie, do you have any legislative matters to report?
The legislative body in Pennsylvania is still pretty quiet right now, but I did want to report that John Callahan's going to be leaving PSBA.
Oh, no.
So we will have a new legislative lead over there at some point. And our legislative meeting got canceled this month as a result of it, so I may not have much of an update later either.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Oh,
I'll
that's
keep
a bummer.
watching.
Okay, thank you. COG Council of, or the Center Region COG Council of Governments report. Peter, do you have a report?
Yeah, really briefly, we'll be talking about the solar power purchase
Exactly.
agreement, so we don't need to cover that right now. There were a couple of items related to Millbrook Marsh that I think folks might be interested in. So phase 2 of the Nature Center's education building is it's open for bids, and so they've been speaking with the bidders. The boardwalk issue continues on, and importantly, the High Point Park Action Park is moving ahead, and they are soliciting funds. They have a Network for Good link, and they are working with a graphics firm to finalize the design rendition. So I know that there are a lot of people who are excited, and I do have to say their social media presence is pretty impressive.
It is.
A lot of fun. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we have time for public comment. If anyone who's here who would like to make a public comment. And if there's anyone in attendance remotely who would like to make a public comment, you can use the raised hand feature. Okay. Yes, if you'd like to come up to the lectern and you can introduce yourself, where you reside in the district, and then you'll have 3 minutes. So thank you and welcome.
Becoming a regular, which is odd. Tina Hennessy, I live in Park Forest. So first off, I want to say Mr. Strzok is the best. So
Yep.
that's awesome. I am one of the members of the parent work group for race and marginalized populations. And that's part of the reason that I've been trying to come out to the board meetings and just track what's happening. So I thought it would be a good opportunity tonight just to reiterate some of our goals and the things that we're tracking. We appreciate what you all have been doing. I think we know that the board is supportive and the superintendent, the administration is supportive, but I think it's important for us to focus on accountability and keep talking about these issues. So, the 4 things that are really front of mind for us as this school year starts are, the issues with disproportionality that were identified by the PA Department of Education. So we're hopeful to see more movement on that topic. We also continue to be interested in, and this was a topic at the last board meeting, in the conversation about school resource officers, security officers, and the overall culture and climate in our schools. We also care about the prioritization of hiring BIPOC faculty and staff to better represent a proportion that's equal to our students. And then fourth, we are interested in the data dashboard that would share with the whole community data related to these topics and would be updated frequently so it wouldn't be static. That's our hope. We've seen versions of that exist at other districts, and we're excited about the possibility of that. We know many of these things are already in the works. We do get regular updates, and so we feel good about that. But these are really important issues, and we just don't want to lose sight of them.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for your comment. And for anyone who's interested, we did have a board work session specifically focused on disproportionality and achievement gap or opportunity gap issues. It was in June. It was in the middle of June. So you'd be able to find the notes for that online. And you could touch base with any board members if you're interested in hearing more about what we discussed there, which I think will be an ongoing topic that we'll be examining data on that regularly. So, thank you. Anyone else to make a public comment? Okay. Anyone online? All right. Moving on then to routine approvals. If we could have a motion to approve the routine approval listing as presented on the agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Okay, then we will see if there's any public comment and anyone remotely. Okay, we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote.
Dr. Crevecore. Yes. Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zinni. Yes. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes. Okay, so moving on to action items, as that is passed, we will have a motion to approve the 2021-22 through 2024 Strategic and Comprehensive Plan as shown in Attachment 6A. This will be inclusive of the 2021 to 2024 Induction Plan per Chapter 49, the 2021 through 2024 Professional Development Plan per Act 48, and the 2021 to 2024 Gifted Education Plan Assurances per Chapter 16. If we could have a motion for that item.
So moved. Second.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion on this item? Laurel? Thank you. You might want, turn your mic on, yeah.
There we go.
Great.
Thanks. I think we have been doing a lot of work in the last couple of months to get this ready to go. There were a couple of comments I wanted to make about the strategic plan part, and in particular, the big difference that I see between this and our last one has to do with a lot of the stuff that we're talking about in terms of our district principles, particularly around equity. That was sort of in the old plan in terms of goal statements addressing different achievement levels between different subgroups, but we weren't as upfront as this one is. I personally think it's a very important piece to have in there, and I appreciate all the work that went into it. And I particularly appreciate the commitment that's implied in our lead sentence that all children should have access to what they need to develop their full academic and social potential. With that, I question if it's possible to ensure equally high outcomes for all students. And we do pledge in the strategic plan that that is one of our desired outcomes. It may be a desired outcome, but it may not be an achievable outcome. I think where we need to do is make sure that all children have access. And in addition, there is a point in there where we talk about our principles, and it says that we want to make sure that children are not disproportionately taught by ineffective, out-of-field experienced teachers. So I just wanted to be on record as saying we actually want all children to be taught by experienced and effective, trained teachers. Every single one of them. That's, I think, very, very important. I also just wanted to say that I appreciate the goals that were put into the comprehensive plan that sort of took this and moved it over. And they're, I think, fairly steep. We're saying that we want 88% of the students to be proficient in math, 90% in English language. I assume as we move forward and get more reports, we'll hear where we are now, and then we'll get progress reports. But those are pretty stiff goals, and so I appreciate the work that went into coming up with them. So I encourage everyone who may not have had a chance to look at it, it will be on the website, to go and take a look, because we're pledging to do a lot of work, and I think that's important. I'm glad to see it.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything to add? I see that also Mr. Klingeman has a hand raised online as well.
So we really stretched ourselves when we came up with our goals. We wanted to stretch the school district and see what we were actually, if we put our minds to, what we can achieve. We plan on measuring that and looking at that, but we wanted something that would put us up on the pedestal of achieving the things that we set forth in the educational our comprehensive plan, especially around equity and disproportionality. I agree that we should provide access. We should provide them with the resources to achieve to their fullest potential and beyond. And so we will continue to strive to reach those goals. So thanks.
Mr. Klingeman?
Thank you. Hey, I just wanted to follow up on Laurel's point too. Some of the language specifically that comes through that plan is also required as a part of our federal Title I grants, and the expectations. Federal Title I law does require us to have an equity plan. So some of the language that's in there is coming directly from what the feds are telling us it has to do. And that process we do every year. I work with the accounting office to take a look at measuring teacher-student ratios and et cetera in order for us to maintain compliance under the law. So we wanted to make sure that that was also put in there specifically with what was required as well.
Thanks for that context. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Amy?
I guess I just want to make an observation. I know the terms opportunity versus outcomes is a really, is viewed differently by different people, and when it comes to education as to what's the most important thing to look at. And I think the reality is it's a combination of those two, and I do think it's important to talk about outcomes. That's really critical, because there's different ways to think about providing opportunity, right? So providing opportunity can simply mean there is a plethora of classes. But that's not the same as making sure each child or individual has access to that opportunity, or even is aware that they have the capacity to take advantage of that opportunity. And that's why outcomes are also really important. So while we know that striving for a 100% graduation rate is unlikely to be achievable every year for a variety of reasons, you know, saying that we're going to have complete 100% equity and outcomes, maybe thinking of the math class, right, where you get the asymptote. You can never quite get there, right? Maybe we can't quite get there, but it is important, I think, to also talk about outcomes because it reflects the bigger systemic issues about how students not only have opportunities, but are able to access them, utilize them, sustain in being able to participate in them. So I think it's a nuanced thing, but I think they're both important things to talk about, both opportunity and what kind of outcomes we're achieving. So I'm really proud of what the district personnel did with this plan. It was a really condensed effort, and I think it really capitalized on so much of what we've learned about in education the last 5 to 10 years, both what we've learned from COVID and also, you know, what we've experienced in the massive changes our district has gone through, and kind of centralizing our approach and making sure that all kids in every position in the district have comparable experiences. So I think it's a really great step forward.
Thanks. Any other board comments? Okay, I'll take public comment then. Cynthia Young, I see your hand raised if you would like to make a public comment.
Thank you. I'm Cynthia Young, Associate Professor of African American Studies, English, and Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies. I think that Amy's point about the difficulty in extricating opportunity from outcome is really an important one. I think it's really an important one. Sorry, my son was trying to whistle in the background. Because historically, this country has not done a good job of ensuring that everyone has the same opportunities. And on the rare occasions when that has happened, you've had parallel outcomes. You've had outcomes that are equal across racial and ethnic groups. And so I think it's important to have these outcomes in there because it allows us, instead of blaming the community that is not performing at the same standard, it actually allows us to focus on the staff and the teachers and the administration and makes them accountable for ensuring that equity is actually happening. So while I take Laurel's point, I think that Amy's point about how you disaggregate the two is really critical, and it's often a talking point by those on the right to sort of say, you know, opportunity, not outcome. But in fact, we know that outcome is a measure of opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is anyone else online who would like to make a public comment, or anyone in the room who would like to make a comment? Okay. Then, Laurel?
Yeah, I appreciate Dr. Young's comment. And I just wanted to say, because that is a very good point, we also say that one of our goals is to remove the predictability of success and failure that we currently see correlating with social and certain social and cultural factors. And that to me is a bit different because that talks about just not being able to think to ourselves, well, this kid's going to do this way because that's just the way it is. Removing that predictability, I think, is very valid and very important, and I'm glad it's in here.
Okay, then we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Zidney, Dr. Anderson,
Yes.
Dr. Bader,
Yes.
Dr. Buck,
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion,
Yes.
Dr. Cravacor.
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. Item B is a motion to approve an MOU with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees as shown in Attachment 6B.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion on this item? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Cravacor,
Yes.
Ms. Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Zidney, Dr. Anderson, Dr. Anderson,
She's saying yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Bader,
Yes.
Dr. Buck,
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes. Item C is a motion to approve the MOU with the State College Educational Support Personnel Association as shown in Attachment 6C.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote then.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney.
Okay, that item has passed. Then item D is a motion to approve an MOU with the State College Area Education Association for virtual instruction as shown in attachment 6D. Anyone?
Oh, so moved.
Seconded.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion on this item? Any public comment? Okay, we will have a roll call vote then.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. Item E is a motion to approve an agreement with the Penns Valley Area School District for student services as shown in attachment 6E.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Or public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote then.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. Item F is a motion to approve the Solar Power Purchase Agreement Working Group, RFP, for solar electricity as shown in attachment 6F.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? I think I'd like to start by really extending sincere gratitude to everyone who's worked over numerous years now to make this possible, including Peter Buck and Gretchen Brandt and Randy Brown and Joe Vigiglione from the COG, as
Jim
well as
Leos.
many other.
And Jim Leos.
That's right, was our prior board rep on that committee. There's just been many people, including all the other members of the boards of the other municipalities and their staff members that have worked on this. So it's really been an enormous collective community effort. So, and I think an impressive model, regardless of the outcome of the RFP, it's really a fantastic model for intergovernmental cooperation at the local level. So, Peter, any comments?
I mean, I just think that this is so exciting.
Yeah.
Like you, Amber. I'm really, I'm very grateful to all of the people who have worked on the PPA working group. It has taken a lot of effort and a lot of just a lot of communication, and I think that it speaks very highly to our community to get to a point where something that seemed impossible even 5 years ago is something that we have received national recognition on, and we'll see what happens in the market. So, thank you.
And I feel like I really need to emphasize Randy Brown's effort on all of this because he's done so much of the work behind the scenes in terms of all the business and finance work on this to make sure that, we are really crossing our T's and dotting our I's and being really careful about what we're working through here. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Randy.
And,
Yes.
and where we are right now wouldn't be possible if it weren't for Green Sky, who is the company who we work with, because the work is pretty intricate, and a lot of us had not done 95% of what it's entailed. So, big kudos to that firm for getting us here, and I know that they've supported Randy and me and the rest of the group a lot. So that's not an advertisement. That's a sincere thank you. So if anyone does have any questions, Randy and I can do our best to answer them right now if anyone needs anything.
Deb, I see your hand raised.
Thanks. I have one question about the criteria that are being used during the proposal evaluation process. I appreciate that price is the main factor in the first stage of evaluation. If I'm understanding everything correctly, that gets us from the total number of proposals down to the top 10. But if there is still price variation in those top 10 proposals, then I'm wondering why price is not also one of the criteria used in the second stage. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. The phase two, I mean, so the price is, and experience are used as a, this is going to seem really brutal, like kind of a hatchet, you know, like it's just, yes, it's a down select. That's a much more elegant and kind word. Thank you. And then from there, we're able to winnow things down such that we can get to a good, like, interview pool. The end, so whatever price comes in the proposals is not necessarily the price that would be negotiated or would end up being the price at the end of the process, even after interviews. Does that make sense, Deb? And did I answer the question?
Not necessarily, but you can explain that in more detail at another time, possibly. I guess my concern is just, and maybe this addresses that concern. I think price point needs to be a criterion that we consider at every stage of the process. And I'm not all that familiar with the RFP proposals, and I'm certainly not familiar with solar power purchase agreements. So right now, it looks like we consider it at the beginning, right? You either make it to that group or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not seeing where it comes into play later in the process. So if you could explain that briefly for me and the rest of the public, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, and I would invite Randy to add anything. So that it's such a big, 70% of the weight of that initial criteria, right? It will take out a lot of, well, let's say that there are 30 proposals. I'll just say 30. It's going to curtail a lot of those, such that in my experience, and I would say in Green Sky's experience, that the remaining group will be close enough in price, and then whatever follows, that we're not going to be getting rid of really attractive offers as we go. I think that, Randy? No, great.
Sorry. No, what I meant by that was, the first part of what you said I completely agree with, that I think that the pricing structure is going to really narrow our scope of those that are considered in round two and then eventually get an interview. And I think that it's going to really eliminate large variations. And so the other thing is that we have not defined how many people will leave round two and be interviewed. We've said 3 potential. Again, I think it will be, it's kind of like interviewing for an employee in an organization. It will depend on the pool on how many actual interviews are done. And so I think that what this, I understand what you're saying, Deb, but I think that how I phrase it, or how I look at it from what Peter has said, and much of it I agree with, is that 70% weighting factor is really going to narrow down our opportunities to a very narrow pool. And yet there's other weighting factors there that will help us when we determine where we are. If we get only 5 to evaluate, and we only have 1 that's in, and they have all great variation, then we may have to do like what we've done on very few occasions, but we may just have to say, this wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, does that help, Peter?
Kind of like that the variation amongst those that get through that down select is going to be so narrow as to potentially not be meaningful in terms of the end result.
That's what my hope is, based upon the advice and direction we've gotten thus far in developing this process from our consultants.
Okay.
And if I can, just so that it's not abstract, right? So there's these initial 2 factors, right? Pricing and term, and then experience and qualification. Then if it is a solar services company, right, we have the project location, so that is going to have some weight. The interconnection status, if it's not going to be connected for years compared to another one that is,
Ready to go.
Ready to go, that's a significant factor. And because price has already greatly impacted what can get there, we're saying, okay, well, how do these 2 or 5 or 8 projects weigh one another to that environmental impact, the permitting status, contract exceptions, and then the commercial operation date. Those are all, so if you have something that is, X cents per kilowatt hour versus X 0.3% or X 0.3 cents per kilowatt hour, but one of them is going to be ready and has all its permitting done or is going to be ready in 4 months versus 3 years, that's going to significantly impact our decision making. Just so that it's not abstract.
Shows you how likely that project is to actually be moving forward.
Correct.
And have
And
they've
if a
got their
zoning
ducks in a
hearing
row.
board says, oh, well, actually, you can't do that here, that could kill a project.
Right.
And we would want to know that.
That makes sense. Deb, does that help?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Other questions or discussion? Okay.
I will reiterate what Amber said about, I know this was very much a new thing for Mr. Brown and his office, and we really asked the district team to stretch to reach this goal, and to do it at a time during COVID and a lot of other pressures on their office, and they still really stepped up to the challenge and embraced this both as a hopeful financial win for the district and also to attain the sustainability things that we care about. So, I just want to doubly acknowledge that we asked a lot and you more than delivered. So we were very grateful for that participation.
And I'm glad that you I think all of you have, but my team behind me that I work with, I couldn't be doing it without them. And they've not only picked up the pieces on this, but they've picked up pieces on other things as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank
So
you.
I hope they're as proud as we are of moving this whole thing forward.
They're just proud of breathing someday.
Yep. All right. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and have a roll call vote.
Ms. Concepcion?
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Ms. Zinni? Dr. Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Dr. Buck?
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. So that's an exciting step forward. So, all right, so item G is a motion to approve Act 57 local tax collection resolution as shown in attachment 6G.
Seconded.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion or public comment? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote then.
Dr. Crevecore?
Yes.
Ms. Huff?
Yes.
Ms. Zinni? Dr. Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Bader?
Yes.
Dr. Buck?
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion?
Yes. So that item has passed. Item H is a motion to approve the engagement of Baker Tilly for PlanCon Part J documents for construction projects as shown in attachment 6H.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Laurel?
Could you just explain a little more about what this is that they're doing and what we hope to see at the end of it?
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
the PlanCom process is the funding mechanism that the state provides for school construction projects. It went back when we were designing and requesting to design, we began with PlanCon A, B, C, and we end with J and eventually potentially K. And H was recently approved for us to submit for reimbursement, to begin the reimbursement process. It was, J is the absolute final accounting on the projects, and because of its finality and because of the dollar volume in the projects, it is required that our auditors give it a second look or give it a look and review the materials and do an engagement of our records before they're submitted to PDE. And so once PlanCon J is submitted and approved, then we will start receiving reimbursement. And we have a more, because some of the projects have been completed for a number of years, and we receive our reimbursement based upon the debt that we issue and we pay our principal and interest on, we get the reimbursement as a percentage of those payments. We have some monies that are due to us to go back into future capital funding projects. So I meant accepted and approved by the state. The audit is a part of the submission.
Other questions? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote then.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Okay, so that item has passed. Item I is a motion to approve an agreement with the Western Governors University for a student-teacher intern. This is shown in attachment 6I.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Public comment? Okay. We will have a roll call vote.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Okay, that item passed. Item J is a motion to approve an agreement with the Commonwealth University of PA for athletic trainer interns, as shown in attachment 6J.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Okay, any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney.
Okay, that item's passed. Item K is a motion to authorize the administration to secure sponsorship agreements for athletics events, venues, or platforms, as shown in attachment 6K.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? We had some discussion in this.
Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify. So is this, so the recommendation is to authorize administration to secure sponsorship agreements for athletic events, venues, or platforms, and is that in perpetuity?
It is it is intended to reference the 3 items that were discussed at Finance Committee.
Okay.
The ticketing,
Right.
the IM volleyball,
Yep.
and the track and field.
So should those be included in the?
They should have been included in the recommendation. Yes.
Okay.
Please amend that. I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's ticketing.
They are mentioned in
There
the
are.
background. It
Right,
just
but
wasn't, it was a little
It's not in the
ambiguous.
right, but
Yeah.
it's not in the
In the motion. Gotcha.
So I would move to amend the emotion, amend the motion to say or platforms for intramural volleyball competitions, track and field competitions, and digital ticketing.
Right.
And so who had made the motion first?
Oh, I did.
Okay, so can Jackie accept that as a friendly amendment then? Okay,
I accept that as a friendly amendment.
okay. All right, so
And
then.
second,
I second.
Okay,
just
great.
getting all of our
that's
eyes.
complicated. Yeah.
And I apologize. It meant
That's okay.
I meant it to be clearer. Just to reiterate for those that weren't at the committee meeting,
Right.
getting the sponsorships for some of these events can be a little bit time sensitive and challenging to come to the board, and your policy says that you will approve the sponsorships agreements before they incur. And so the conversation led to the idea of this motion where there would be more focused approvals with the sponsorship agreements coming in the future. I think that we can take, look at this in a couple different ways, that maybe once we get more background and experience, we can have either a policy change or more of a standard approval process prior to the vendor agreements coming, the sponsorship agreements coming. But we see that this will greatly enhance Chris and Lauren's and their department's ability to gain the sponsorships and move forward. And we appreciate your flexibility because I think that, we've had a couple years, we've had, several things that have come through. We're not trying to rewrite the sky line in the district or in the community with our sponsorships, but until you have a different policy, we want to work within that, but this gives us some flexibility to do that in a little bit more timely manner.
And for the benefit of anyone in the public watching, there are some restrictions within this authorization that relate to our policy on what we consider appropriate vendors to be advertising in a school setting.
And,
So-
and it also relates to restrictions that the PIAA places on school districts as well. And
That's good,
so
yeah.
it's just an added layer of accountability
And consistency.
and consistency, yes. Chris and Lauren, is there anything else?
Thanks for your work on these. Okay, then is there any public comment on this item? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote then.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, so that item has passed. Item L is a motion to approve the amended transportation agreements as shown in attachment 6L.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion on this?
I'll just like to add that transportation is a very difficult thing right now. And unfortunately, we are in not even the second full week of school today, and we're concerned about illness of all kinds hitting our bus drivers. And so this is not helping our employees as bus drivers. They have a new employment contract, but this is helping our contracted bus drivers, which even as early as last week, the first week of school, we had to help cover some of their runs because of illness or what absences in their employment. So this will help those firms. And on an unrelated note to this action, we are looking for an additional contractor to help us with our transportation needs because we are really facing some great difficulties.
Okay. Is that the sense that that might help attract more people into these positions?
It's just another company that we can rely upon. Hopefully, they have drivers already.
All right, questions? Laurel?
I just wanted to follow up to say that it's in the memo, but that part of what was included in there is that these funds will go to the drivers themselves, so it's not enriching in any way the companies that have already made a contract with us, but it is to go to the drivers.
Yep.
Correct.
That's important. Okay, any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. Item M is a motion to approve the physical plant building architect recommendation shown in attachment 6M.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Okay, that item is passed. Item N is a motion to approve the Spring Creek Basin remediation change order shown in attachment 6N.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? And any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes. Item O is a motion to approve the Mount Nittany Middle School and Park Forest Middle School Family and Consumer Science renovation change order shown in attachment 6O.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevecore.
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. Item P is a motion to approve the Graves Woods roof change order shown in attachment 6P.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevacor.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Okay, that item passed. Item Q is a motion to approve the North Team Rooms renovation change order shown in attachment 6Q.
So moved.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Peter?
I just want to say, as someone I think usually does, I just so appreciate the tables. And since this is the last item with a table in it with all the breakdowns in it, thank you so much for providing that. It really helps each of us, I think, track what's going on. And I mean, personally, just helps me feel a lot more secure in understanding where things are, what the moving pieces are, and how much they cost. And I think that's just a really great practice. So thanks for doing it.
Yeah. All right. Laurel?
I wanted to say that the Facilities and Finance Committees got to look at this space, and they really are doing a lot with what was there. And these change orders, though, we never like change orders unless they're, bracketed. But it's really coming along and looking nice, and they're doing their best to reduce, reuse, and that type of thing. So.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any public comment? We'll have a roll call vote then.
Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevacor.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney.
Okay, that item passed. Item R is a motion to approve permission to bid the Mount Nittany Elementary renovation project shown in attachment 6R.
So moved.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion on this item? Laurel?
When do you expect the bids to come back? Or do you know that yet?
Probably looking at the 4th week of September, somewhere in there.
So fairly soon. Great. Good.
CDs should just be about done in the next week or two, and then 3 weeks to bid.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate the creative thinking on how to make that building more useful for the number of kids we have in it currently. Yeah. Okay, any public comment? All right, we will have a roll call vote.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevacor.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, so that item has passed. Item S is a motion to approve the North Building asbestos remediation shown in attachment 6S.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? Okay, any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevacor.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Okay, that item is passed. Item T is a motion to approve the agreement with Premier Healthcare Alliance shown in attachment 6T.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Questions or discussion? I had to reread this like twice to understand it, just because I was like, wait, how does a healthcare alliance have to do with food service? But it did make sense once after reading carefully several times. Okay. Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes.
Dr. Crevacor.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Okay, that item has passed. Item U is a motion to approve the 2022-2023 agreement with the Jana Marie Foundation, shown in attachment 6U.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion on this? Any public comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Dr. Crevacor.
Yes.
Ms. Huff.
Yes.
Ms. Zidney. Dr. Anderson.
Yes.
Dr. Bader.
Yes.
Dr. Buck.
Yes.
Ms. Concepcion.
Yes. Okay, so that item has passed. That brings us to the end of our action items for this evening, and we do not have any information discussion items.
I just have to
Um,
say, I think that's the closest we've ever gotten to Z on on action items. Have you
That's
really?
right. When we
In
were
my
doing the high
time on
school
the board.
project, we had
Yeah.
really, yeah. Yep.
That was a lot. Go team.
And we were efficient. Okay, so moving on to committee reports. On the 10th, there was a joint Facilities and Grounds and Finance and Audit Committee meeting, and I'll let Peter give an update on that.
Yeah. So thank you. We moved through so many of the items that were actually contained in here that there isn't a whole lot to update. There is the foundation and fundraising sponsorship proposal regarding naming opportunities. The Westerly Parkway traffic study update. So I guess that there were some changes to the signal there in order to reduce the the clogging of that intersection and how far back it's getting behind the lights in the district parking lots. We talked about, let's see, we have the fiscal 22 year reporting calendar was also reported on, donation reports, local tax collection. We talked about, I think, every other item on here. And then on the 24th, there was also a joint meeting, and I believe that we have worked through those items tonight on the agenda. The only addition is that the greenhouse gas related resolution will become a standing item for the foreseeable future on facilities committee meetings. And there will not be a meeting on September 7th.
Right. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Debbie, anything to add to that?
No, thank you. I asked Peter to cover it, so thank you, Peter.
Thanks.
Sure thing.
Okay, so moving on to policy development. Jackie?
Yeah, so when we met in policy, we continued our review of policies by reviewing the PSBA recommended changes to our policies. Many of the policies we looked at, we decided we needed to reach out for more information on. So there wasn't a whole lot of action there's no action at the meeting, but the discussion was limited just because we needed more information on several of the policies. So not a ton to report right now.
Great, thank you. Okay, Laurel, communications?
Thank you. We had a very productive meeting. Hopefully, one of the things that anyone who writes to the school board will soon begin to see, if it may already be up, is just letting people know, if they write to us at all board, that we have received their email, because we wanted to just make sure that people knew it had gone through. And there's also going to be a link there so they can link back to our main webpage. We also discussed what's coming forward in terms of, we are in the middle of a superintendent search, and we will be having some, I believe, 5 dates in September for members of the community to come. We're basically giving as much time as will be needed for the people who are there to give comments that will be then compiled so that we know what the community is thinking about, what our needs are. We touched on the upcoming school climate survey, but that's actually on the agenda for the Culture, Climate, and Learning Committee. And the other exciting news in terms of what people in the community can begin to see again is that our communications department is going to be resuming a regular newsletter. So I think that's anything else, anyone who's there?
That was the highlights.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then moving on to looking at upcoming committee meetings. We have a meeting here tomorrow morning at 10:30, so it's nice that we're ending relatively timely tonight. And then on the 14th, we have Finance and Audit at 11:45, also here. Just a note that we have resumed holding all of our meetings in this room unless otherwise noted. So other board reports, Central Intermediate Unit. Jackie, is there anything to report?
So I actually got to meet people in person for the first time on a CIU board meeting. It was well represented. Mr. Utter was there as well as Dan. We were the only very strong contingent from State College at this meeting. I don't think we have a lot to report at this time, mostly boilerplate approvals. And the CIU continues to march towards finding a new home.
Great.
So we'll keep you updated on that.
Okay. Ed Foundation report, that is me, and we have a meeting coming up, and I will report back on it at our next board meeting. Actually, one of the things I might mention is just that the Ed Foundation wants to continue having discussions with the school district about fundraising objectives. So like, what are the kinds of items that we are hoping that they would be raising money for? So that's a discussion to expect to occur between the Ed Foundation leadership and our district administration to result in what we'll see as fundraising campaigns for this school year. So, then the CTC Advisory Committee, Carlene?
Yes, I missed the last one, but I did meet with Mr. Weekland before then, and we basically talked about a few things, and one of them was a potential wrestling team for girls.
Oh, I'm talking about CTC.
Oh,
Sorry,
CTC.
not the
Oh.
CAC.
Oh, I'm
Too many
sorry.
Cs.
I know. No, we haven't met yet.
Oh, okay. And then now the CAC for athletics. So
Well, I
that's-
started that.
There we go.
And that was basically all, and I think
Yep.
you attended the meeting also,
Yes.
so if there was other things that was discussed.
Yeah, we talked about what the goals would be for the committee to accomplish this year. And one of the issues being like, how do we continue to recruit and retain high-quality coaches? Because it's kind of an ongoing challenge to have turnover in our coaching staff. And that also applies to officials and other people involved with the athletic program, that this just needs to be an ongoing focus for the athletic department. And then we also talked about what are some of the ideas for getting some more activities, athletic activities for sixth graders, being something that we'll be looking at over the course of this school year. So, I don't know, did I forget anything? Debbie, you were there. Anything?
Yeah, the only other thing we spent some time on was talking a little bit about what are the different safety things and safety equipment, that's basically
Right.
it, that is provided to the different teams, and sort of why some teams might get things and other teams might not. And a lot of that has to do with students that already have their own equipment, but the athletic department made it clear that any student that has a need for something that isn't usually provided, the school should be able to provide that for the student. They just need to let us know. So we're working on communication of that.
Yes, that's a good point. That was an important piece of what we
Yeah.
discussed. Yep. Okay, facilities, I was not at the last meeting. Was anyone there for the CAC for facilities? I don't know if they've met since our last board meeting, though. Mike's not here. Okay. All right. Finance, CAC, they wouldn't have met at this time. Okay. No one is here from school health and safety, but they probably didn't hold their first meeting for this school year yet. And then Jackie, technology?
So there was a CTC technology meeting. Unfortunately, at the very last minute, I wasn't able to attend, but I should have some updates from Justin a little later.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, so looking forward to future agenda planning. Our next meeting is on the 19th. We will have some policy items we expect to have on that agenda, and some of the things that are going to be in committees this coming month will be coming back on that agenda. And with that, I would like a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Okay, then we are adjourned.